the only person that's strong enough and has the courage enough to get me out of here is me.
Hey, everyone, and welcome to the Billion Dollar Banker podcast, the show built for high achievers by high achievers. This is your space if you're hungry to reach new heights, sharpen your skills, gain insight from the best in class across business, sales, real estate, and beyond. Every episode delivers proven strategies, real world stories, and actionable steps you can apply immediately to maximize your growth, expand your influence, and unlock your future potential. But here's the thing. This podcast isn't just content, it's community, and we want you to be a part of it. If you get value from today's conversation, do us a favor, subscribe, like, drop a comment wherever you're listening, and share this episode with someone in your circle who's chasing greatness just like you. And if you're ready to go deeper, connect with us on social media or join our exclusive sales training community on school.com, where high achievers like you come together to learn, level up, and lead. Because here on the Billion Dollar Banker podcast, we don't just talk about success, we equip you to go out and make it happen. Today, I am so excited to have Marquise Ogden, former NFL player turned best-selling author, keynote speaker, business coach, and host of the Authenticity with Marquise Ogden podcast. From building a multi-million-dollar construction company to losing it all in just 90 days, Marquise's journey through failure and resilience has shaped him into one of the most powerful voices on perseverance and mindset today. He's spoken to Fortune 100 giants like Amazon, Goldman Sachs, and JP Morgan, and his story has been featured in USA Today, Forbes, and beyond. So today, he's here to share with you a really, really great topic, and that's how to thrive through the eye of the storm and the mindset that it takes to push through any challenges that you have so that you can come out stronger. Marquise, welcome to the show. Thanks for joining us.
How are you, Nicole? Thanks for having me on. I appreciate you.
Yeah, we're so excited to have you here today, Marquise. And I know the audience is really going to get a lot out of this. So, just starting right from the beginning, Marquise, you went from NFL to entrepreneurship and faced a massive financial setback that left you kind of starting all over again. When you look back now, what was the defining moment that helped you turn that corner?
Nicole, I ended up hitting my rock bottom moment as a custodian when I was working from 10 p.m. until 5 a.m. It was about 4:30 in the morning on my shift. It was a regular shift, everyday shift. I was tired. I was depleted. I was just got through finishing everything up. I was getting ready to close up and getting ready to get out before the morning rush came in. And I remember literally having where someone's trash and rotten meat and nasty, protruding, horrible smelling garbage, right, Nicole, get all over my body, my skin, my clothes. And that was the moment that I desperately needed to get my life back on track. Because up until that point, I was shifting blame to everybody else. It was that person's fault. My partner, the developer, the contractor, my own employees. It was everybody's fault but the man in the mirror. And
Mm.
when I hit that moment, I said to myself, the only person that's strong enough and has the courage enough to get me out of here is me. And I've got to find that. And I call it how to thrive through the eye of the storm. I didn't know what it was at the time, but
Mm.
I had to start learning how to move like a bison. The bison is the only animal, right, Nicole, that actually goes through the eye of the storm. Not because they like the pain, but they believe the only way out of a storm is through a storm. So that
Mm.
rock bottom moment changed my life. But one of my favorite quotes by J.K. Rowling, who wrote the Harry Potter series, rock bottom is the moment that I rebuilt my life. And today, she's one of, if not the only, billionaire authors in the world.
Yeah, oh my goodness. First of all, incredible story because, that this is just part of, a lot of professional journeys at different levels. But I think the key component is a lot of people don't really learn from these moments. And so, hopefully hearing information like this can help our audience to avoid kind of the pitfalls of saying, "Oh, I've failed. It's all over," right? And really how to get back up and thrive again. I love how you can compare that to like getting through the storm and like the only way out is through, right? You lived both the highs of professional sports and obviously the lows of a financial collapse, which must have been two really big extremes for you. Which experience shaped your mindset more, the success or the failure?
Oh, without a doubt, the failure. Because I believe failure is your greatest teacher if you just pay attention to the signs. People say, oh, I don't want to fail. I don't want to fail. And again, I don't want people to fail like I did with this huge, catastrophic, multi-million dollar, dilapidated business. I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is that when you do lose, you really should learn. But the thing is, you have to remove your ego when you lose to
Mm,
learn. And if you remove the ego, you can then start to break down. And one of the words in the acronym bison is self-awareness. And I tell clients, know what you do great? That's awesome. I want to know that. But also, what are your blind spots? What do you struggle with? Where do you need help? Where do you need to, get some reassurance and some pump up? And so one of my biggest weaknesses is I'm not very good at things like PowerPoints or, creation of that. I stink at that. But I
mhm.
have a great team member, Dawn, that does. Podcast, right, Nicole? If you ask me to edit a podcast, I'm dead in the water. I can't even tell you how to start. But Ben is the master. So being self-aware allows you to understand what you do well, but also what you don't do well, bring that help in. So to answer your question, without a doubt, failure was my largest and best teacher.
Mm. And such a great takeaway to hear that because I think, we're all chasing success all the time and we're all, and somewhere in the back of our mind worried about failing. And I think that worry and that fear oftentimes prevent us a lot of times from even starting or even beginning. You mentioned ego, which I think is a huge component of things, especially when you're relying on a team. To your point, you're saying, "Hey, I know I'm not the best at doing every part of what needs to get done, but I know who to find to do it the right way, right?" But I imagine you have to learn humility quite a bit during that process. Can you kind of walk us through like how do you get that humility to be able to turn to other people and say, I need you to do this. I don't know how to do it.
Nicole, I live by this saying. I created it. People might have said it before, but I know I did. I've created it and I live by it. When you lose everything, you appreciate everything. And I had to lose absolutely, positively everything that I owned in order to realize the biggest lesson of life, the biggest thing I failed at as a leader, a business owner. I didn't listen, actively listen to my trusted people. And so humility comes from what our word of humbleness, which I believe comes from ability to learn to understand. Humility to me comes from the root of understanding. And that's where listening comes into play. If you don't listen to someone, you can't understand them. Communication is the language of authentic leadership. But in order to understand someone, you have to listen to someone, not to respond to them, but to truly understand. So, humility for me really came after losing my company, being at rock bottom, starting over, and hiring my first team member, Dawn Wiener, back in 2017. And I remember telling Dawn, I said, Dawn, you can always tell me whatever you need to tell me. Because
Mm-hmm.
at the end of the day, I live by this motto. It's a Steve Jobs quote. His hardest job at Apple was to create a psychologically safe environment for his trusted team members to express themselves. And that's what I started to do. I said to myself, no more trying to talk over people, no more living for what I call the personality ethics, rage, wrath, anger, live from the character ethics, humbleness, humility, patience, honesty. And
Mm.
once I did that, people started talking to me more and more and more. And today, Nicole, I don't care who you are, you can always tell me what you think. I'm going
Mm.
to always listen to understand you, not just to respond to you.
Mm. Such great advice. And I'm thinking as you're speaking about, the likelihood of someone achieving the ability to get into the NFL. I think when and I'm kind of relating this to because all these attributes that you've learned, and I'm sure have a lot to do with that experience as well. And I want to hit on that. But when we talk about top achievers, we opened up the Billion Dollar Banker podcast. I mean, you're the definition of a top achiever, right? Just statistically, when you look at the NFL and the amount of people that are playing college sports, right, specifically football in college that go to the NFL, I think it's like 0.1%. Talk to me about how, and the audience, about how your mindset shaped you for that experience and that opportunity, and how some of the things you're talking about today kind of tie into business as well, the time that you had there in the NFL.
So the mindset that I really now realize I was tapping into was the power of the subconscious mindset. And very few people get to that because there's a very ugly monster inside of all of us that keeps us from getting there. And it's called our inner critic. Our inner critic's job is to keep a gate, a force field from us getting to the root of greatness and mindset, which is our subconscious mindset. Our subconscious mindset, Nicole, can break down 40 million bits of information in a matter of seconds. And that's the mindset that I was living in as an NFL player. Because if I made a mistake, I would own it, I would fix it, I would move on. So many people today, if they make a mistake, they can't own it. Or if they own it, they dwell in it. If they dwell in it, they can't move past it. They fix it. Oh, I fix it, but oh, poor me. Oh, poor me. And I lived there after my failure, after my divorce. And I realized, right, in the NFL, because other so many guys have the same type of mindset and they are extremely disciplined, over dedicated. That's another thing. To get to that subconscious mindset, discipline will have to always crush motivation. So, me, Nicole, I'm back now running 3 times a week, about six, so it's between 6, 7 miles per week total. I absolutely hate running with a passion. I can't stand it. I've got a bad hip from football. I got to get it
Mm.
replaced at some point, but I still get the run done. Maybe not as fast as I want to, but again, in the last 3 months, I've lost about 25 pounds because I've really cut back on my drinking.
Mhm.
I'm eating better, and I'm disciplined to run. I woke up this morning, got my run in. And so discipline is doing what you know you need to do that you hate doing to get the result that you want in life. As an athlete, I don't know any athletes that love running in the football fields. Maybe some do, but very few love the
Mhm.
running or love competing in training camp in the heat or love doing all the things that you have to do to perfect your craft that aren't the game that you played on Sundays, right?
Mhm.
But the athletes that I've been around, like my brother,
Mhm.
or Ray Lewis or Ed Reed or the elite of the elite, right?
Sure.
They always were more disciplined than they were dedicated. So again, to tap into that, right? You have to be disciplined to tap into your subconscious mindset.
Mm.
Once you do that in your personal life, in your professional life, you'll always be able to be more resilient when you face resistance.
Yeah, wow. A lot of great things sent there. Resilient, more resilient when you face resistance. I think about the amount of discipline someone would need to have to get an opportunity to be in the NFL, to be picked. And I'm curious, do you feel like the achievement, talking about being a top achiever, getting into professional NFL football, do you feel like it was how much of it was the mindset for you at a young age saying, I'm going to become a pro football player versus the discipline? Like what kind of what's the foundation? Where does the foundation come from? Is it in your mind, knowing I can do it, I can make it happen, wanting it really bad, and then the discipline follows? Or tell us like what was that framework like?
So for me, I really got, I was very excited about playing football as a freshman in high school. When my brother got drafted number 4 overall by the Baltimore Ravens in 1996, I was a junior in high school, going to my junior season. At that moment, I loved the game even more. And so I worked harder. And then I didn't think I was even going to go to college to play football because I didn't grow to be about 6 foot, almost 6'6" until I was like I left high school. Howard gave me one opportunity to play football after high school, and I took it. And what happened is going into my sophomore year, my redshirt freshman year at Howard, my brother was then a 2 or 3 time Pro Bowler, a perennial All Pro. I was starting as a redshirt freshman for Howard University. And I said to myself, okay, now it's time to get disciplined. And then what happened was my foundation, my mindset, all those things caught up when I told myself it's time to go to work. And you can actually do this as a career after college, but you won't know it if you're not disciplined.
Mm-hmm.
So what happened is I loved the game in high school, loved my brother, and then when I got to college, and I'm like, oh, if I start for year 2, you don't know. And then it's a redshirt freshman. I'm a starting right tackle where everybody else on the line are seniors. I'm the only freshman. I'm like, oh, whoa, like this is awesome. I said, I can do this. And so that's when the discipline and the drive and the fortitude kicked in. And then my mindset shifted from saying, oh, maybe we'll do this until like, you know what? Again, one of my favorite quotes by Yoda.
Mm.
There's do or do not. There's no try. I said, I'm gonna do it. And once I told myself that, it was over.
That's it. Game over. When your brother got into the NFL, was that like a moment that represented like, oh, this is possible? Like this, if it was possible for him, it's possible for me. Was there some connection there?
Oh, absolutely. Because
Hmm.
we grew up in the same house,
Hmm.
same parents, same, same high school area, same sort of like, football programs. Like honestly, my high school football program was more well known than his. Like, so he was in the IAC, St. Albans, Georgetown Prep, good football, right? But more for like, they're more like, things like track and things of that nature. The
Hmm.
WCAC was St. John's, DeMatha, Gonzaga. Carroll. Like we were a much stronger, much tougher football league. And I was starting as a freshman on JV. I started on varsity as a junior and senior. I said, well, if my brother can do it, how about me? And then Howard saw something in me. I'll never forget this, Nicole. I remember my college football coach, Steve Wilson, who played in the NFL, and you could probably ask your dad. He played for the Broncos and the Cowboys. Your
Hmm.
dad would probably know him. He's a cornerback for the Cowboys under Tom Landry. Coach Wilson told my mom and dad, Cheryl and Cassandra, if Marcus comes to Howard, he's going to redshirt that first year. He's going to sit, get stronger, learn the system. He should be starting by his redshirt freshman year. And if he does what we tell him to do, he puts the work in, he puts the discipline in, he'll be drafted in our first ever offensive lineman drafted to the NFL from Howard University. And I was like, this guy's on crack, man. There ain't no way. I got no offers.
Wow.
How's this guy? What is he thinking? What is he sniffing? Like, absolutely not. I said, do I have an offer for college? He said, we're prepared to give him a full scholarship for 5. I said, great, 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 great. I was like, oh, very common. And when he closed the door, yes, I'm going to college. That was awesome. Right? I signed my scholarship. But Coach Wilson told my parents, as a 17-year-old high school kid who's ready to graduate, I will start as a freshman and I could be drafted to the NFL. I thought it was crazy. And Nicole, I started as a freshman and the first, and I'm still the only offensive lineman drafted from Howard University to the National Football League.
Wow, that's how impressive. I'm thinking about someone else having the belief in you that maybe at times you don't have in yourself. Maybe that being your parents, or maybe that being, if you don't have someone immediately around you, maybe it's just listening to someone, listening to a podcast, yours, mine, someone else's, that it does encourage you. Like, you can do it. If you put your mind to something, it can happen. Even the things that seem so impossible, right? And so this is just a great example. And now when we look at you today, right now you've coached leaders, you're speaking at Fortune 100 companies, as we mentioned in the beginning. What are some common traits that you see in organizations that thrive through turbulent times?
They have excellent leadership that can create a culture of healthiness, collaboration, and togetherness because no organization can thrive without it. If your team can't communicate with each other, collaborate with each other, depend on each other, it's never going to work. The
Mm,
companies that I see that thrive, like companies like Mass Mutual, Home Depot, we've done work for Intel, Core, Molson Coors. I mean, I could go down the list, Equitable to NetApp, all these major companies, right? Nicole,
mm,
all the Fortune 500, 150, and 25 companies that we've spoken for, all of them that are that large, their cultures are healthy with leadership that can pivot and leadership that serves a cause greater than themselves. So if you want to be a big company and build something, you have to have that collaboration, you have to have that communication, you have to have that cornerstone of foundational belief that we can communicate and we can rise together through anything.
mm. Which when you say it, right, anything that you say, it sounds so simple, but really for organizations to have a culture with strong leadership, with great collaboration, it is rare to find at times. And I think that's why a lot of companies, Fortune 100 companies, bring in people like yourself from the outside to shed in kind of some perspective on that. And I think everybody ends up learning something in those scenarios, from leadership all the way down, and it becomes motivational and inspirational. I think it reminds a lot of businesses too that, hey, business really, being in the NFL, being an entrepreneur, or being a Fortune 100 company, like, a lot of these things kind of transcend all the way through the qualities that you need. When you think about if you kind of had a chance to, let's say, redo your entrepreneurial journey, what would you do differently, and what would you not change because it made you who you are today?
I would not change the failure of Caden Premier Enterprises. I needed that to be able to get humbled and become a better human being.
Mm,
What I would change is how I treated people when I had Caden, and I just became so focused on things that didn't matter, mainly money. I was a very money hungry, money grubbing, just plain a-hole.
mm.
So I wish I could change that, but I still needed the failure of Caden. Because without the failure of Caden, right, Nicole, I don't wake up and I don't become a better human being that has now started something that people are inspired by, like our podcast, like our speaking, our coaching, our consulting. And I
Mm.
needed that to figure out who I really am and what was
Hmm.
my purpose here on earth. And then now I'm actually living in my purpose and I'm walking in my passion.
Yeah, gosh, isn't it so much easier to look back and say, wow, I can really appreciate this journey. At the time, it felt like it was over. It felt so difficult, or maybe impossible to turn the corner. And then when you look back, you really realize how it builds your character, and you become all the better for it. And I think that's the exciting thing about, podcasts, about life, about business is that curiosity to always be learning and always be growing. And I think fundamentally, high achievers that are listening to this podcast today, I'm sure you possess that quality. That quality, it's why you're listening. I want to learn more. I'm curious. I want to understand. I want to learn from others. You always say, you learn from OPE, other people's experience, right? And learn what to do and learn what not to do and learn what others have done to kind of overcome some of the greatest challenges we have in life, personally, professionally, as you mentioned, right? Between business failure, divorce, and now, here you are today helping people kind of get out of their own way, right? And kind of personally preparing for some of this. When you have these now new kind of you have the podcast, you have your speaking company coaching, you're doing all these things, you're in Fortune 100 companies, giving them insight, right? How do you prepare now for these kind of high stake speaking engagements or big business opportunities?
The one thing I do is I always ask our client what is the theme of their event and what is the main message and or point of emphasis they want to have come across in our keynotes, in our workshops, in our discussions. It's not about what I want. It's about what does the client need and what is the theme that they want the people in the room to walk away with that ties into our message and
Mm-hmm.
to their overall event. And
Right.
that's why people love working with us because it's not about what we want. It's
Mm-hmm.
about what the client wants and what the client needs, right, Nicole, to have their
Sure thing.
people elevate to the next level.
Yeah, what great questions because yeah, you gotta kind of narrow it down and being kind of the recipient, I work for Cross Country Mortgage. We do, sales rallies annually and we always have, some kind of people call it motivational speaker, but I think that, just getting to the heart of what people really need to understand or hear is obviously that speaks to the fact that you're speaking to them. You're not speaking just about something you want to talk about. You want to know how you can kind of tailor this to the things that they need. For high achievers listening today, right? People who, let's say, are successful, but maybe like one crisis away from losing the momentum they need. What's your advice to them to kind of stormproof their mindset or their business?
Always remember it can take you eons or years or a lifetime to build a business. It just takes one bad mistake, one bad job, one bad interaction with a client to ruin your business. And when you think like that, and you keep that in the back of your mind, I tell everybody, I'm only as good as my last talk. I spoke 4 times in a week a couple weeks ago, August 4th through 11th. I was in Raleigh, Winston-Salem, North Carolina. I was in Santa Rosa, California for Stanford and Atlanta for Mass Mutual.
Mm,
All 4 talks went amazing. But I always tell myself, Marcus, you're only as good as your last talk. And that mindset, that mentality, that approach has allowed us to continue to deliver excellent keynotes all across the world and it keeps us going in the right direction because I don't rest on past merits. I don't live in the
mm,
past. I don't worry about the future when I'm speaking. It's
mm.
the present moment. If you screw up the present, it'll screw up your future.
Yeah, well, great advice because I'm thinking about the other day I was thinking to myself, well, it kind of gets easier to take your foot off the gas when you start seeing results. Like, isn't that funny? So like if you have a goal to
Yeah.
lose weight or get in shape and you start to kind of see a little bit some of those results, or you have a goal in your business and to reach a certain level and you start to see yourself getting closer to it, that's the moment where you're kind of like, well, I'm almost there. I guess I could chill out a little, take my foot off the gas, not run as much, not okay, if this speech is okay, what's the big deal, right? I have another 20 booked or whatever the case is. So I think that mindset of like every performance is really a critical one. Every job, every client, every day that you have something written down in your calendar to do it, even if you're seeing the results, you got to continue with that consistency in what you're doing. I'm excited to ask you kind of some rapid fire questions here, but before we do that, I do want to help our listeners find you, right? So, can you tell us how we can follow your work or learn more about Ogden Ventures, about your speaking engagements, or your podcast?
Sure. So our podcast is called Get Authentic with Marcus Ogden. We're on every major podcast platform. We even have a YouTube that we just started, which is Get Authentic with Marcus Ogden YouTube channel. You can get all kind of great interviews, great insights from the Get Authentic with Marcus Ogden podcast. And if you want to reach me personally, you can email me at Marcus, Marques, at marcusogden.com, or let's go to our website, www.marcusogden.com. Connect with us, reach out to us. We love to speak with you.
Amazing. And while you guys are taking that in, all of the information that Marcus just relayed will be in the description. So if you missed any of it, you can just go down there and easily click to get to his profiles, YouTube, etc. Give him a follow. Go listen to some of his episodes. They're absolutely incredible. I don't want to misrepresent, but I think you have one of the most highly rated podcasts out there. It's up there, right? It's been growing
Yeah,
pretty
it's
rapidly.
been growing pretty rapidly. Yeah, we just passed over 500,000 downloads since June 1st, since we went independent. And yeah, I mean, we had national partners like ZipRecruiter who partner with our brand, and people that are advertising, big brands are now advertising on our show more consistently, like Progressive Insurance, Indeed, Kroger Grocery, you name it. So we're really, really grateful, and people are loving. We put out 4 days a week and sometimes more. But yeah, people love our show, Nicole. We're very fortunate, very grateful for people to love and to check it out and to come take a listen.
Amazing. Well, before we get into these rapid fire questions with Marquise, if you guys like this episode and you enjoy what you're hearing, definitely hit that like button, hit the subscribe button, and leave a comment below if you have something it's a great question or something that you're interested in learning more about. Let us know. We would love to hear from you. All right, let's do these quick rapid fire questions now. Let's see how we can get through them. One word that you'd use to describe the NFL experience.
Amazing.
Amazing. Yeah, I bet. Okay. What is the toughest lesson you've ever learned in business in 10 words or less?
Never let your ego ruin your life.
Okay. You did it. I think that was 8 words. Never let your eat. So important. Note that down, everybody. Morning routine. What's the first thing that you do to set your mindset for the day?
Besides meditate, I get up and I work out in some capacity, run, lift, something. I'm in the gym. First, the other, I meditate. Thank God I'm up, and then I work out.
Keep it moving. I love that. Set the foundation for the day. All right. Who is one person, alive or not, that you'd love to share the stage with as a speaker or maybe have on your podcast?
Ooh, I'm gonna have to go with, wow, that's a good question. Let's go with Les Brown. Love Les. He's still alive. Love his work. Just inspiration. So I'll go with Les Brown.
Amazing. All right, we have to tag Les in this clip. See if he could join you. All right, what book had the biggest impact on your mindset?
The Breakthrough Code by Tom McCarthy. He talks about how to tap into the subconscious mindset and how when we can get to that level, our ego never becomes bigger than the good part of our soul.
Wow, and I've never heard of that book, so it's a great recommendation for me too. All right, final question here. What is your personal definition of success today?
Success to me is our clients achieving massive success with their goals and their aspirations. That's what success means to me.
Incredible, Marquise. I'm so grateful that we met, that we were able to both join one another's podcasts. I'm really just so impressed. I think right off the gate, everybody is, when you hear someone that achieved one of the top achievements you can achieve, joining the pro NFL team that you have and having the success you've had in your career, and some of the things you shared with us today and what you're doing, how you've turned failure into opportunity, how you're helping others to avoid some of the same pitfalls and continue to be resilient. It's just incredible. I thank you for sharing your wisdom with us today. Guys, go check out Marquise. And Marquise, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me, Nicole. I appreciate you.
Of course. Have a great day.